If you think Drake finna abandon and forsake all them fans, you gotta realize this for the fans right here. You think he gonna let some pussy ass niggas have something over him, his legacy, and his fans? No. Just watch game 2, bro. Just watch game 2.
You think Drake shows you love?
Drake showed me a lot of love.
How? What's he do to show you love?
I got exclusive info.
That's not love. What do you do with that exclusive info? You say it to the world, you gas it up 10 times more. He's using you as a billboard, free promo. Showing you love is, yo, act, I'm in the city. Here's 10 tickets to my show. He sent Ice Spice a jet before he sent you one. Act, they could be dropping ass music, but you won't say that because you're in #1 fan.
So guys, at this point, Kendrick Lamar has made his decision pretty clear. He's out for blood, the war is not over, he's going to continue stomping on Drake until Drake decides to finally engage in that round 2. And just like Drake liking majors instead of minors, this was an absolute joke, alright? It's actually quite the opposite. As of now, in Kendrick's perspective, the war is over, he's back from battle, he took off those dirty Air Force Ones that he's been kicking Drake in with, he won the championship, there's not going to be a round 2 on his end, but he also has no regrets or apologies for what he did. He's drawing the line in the sand between what Drake stands for and what he encompasses, and separates the character traits of himself versus the toxicity and fraud that plagues most of the industry today. On this new record, he's asking us to watch the party die. But Drake's next move is still up for interpretation. Will he insist on letting the party go on? Now, we gotta touch on a lot in this video. Number 1 is, along with Kendrick Lamar, it seems like the whole culture has woken up and there's a joint effort from corporations and massive institutions to tear Drake down. We also got to talk about Akademiks, one of Drake's last supporters within the industry, because seemingly as he was one of the sole people that was still sticking up for Drake, he's potentially now realized that Drake has been using him for good publicity. We also got to touch on how Drake is speaking through Akademiks by telling him one day that there's going to be a round 2 and that he's going to win, but once Kendrick brings that up, then there's no round 2 all of a sudden. And Akademiks is now saying Drake never wanted a real round 2, bar for bar, to begin with. We also got to touch on how Drake has very few people left in the industry on his side. Even his friends like Lil Yachty and Cardi seemingly might be turning on him, and scarier than that for Drake is that, unlike we've ever seen before in his career, his new records have been continuously flopping. He seems to be in a subtle beef with his own record label, and he's not sure if he wants to continue fighting Kendrick to rebuild his reputation, or if he's too scared that messing with the boogeyman once again might do more harm than good. Now, when I say there's a joint effort from corporations and massive institutions to tear Drake down, all you gotta do is take a simple look at some of the biggest events inside and outside of music in the last few months. The biggest one would be the Democratic National Convention, where Kamala Harris was officially voted in as the Democratic nominee. You know what song they were playing at that event? Not Like Us. The PDF file anthem. A song calling Drake an OV-ho, a freak, a PDF file, a colonizer, a scammer, a fraud, a lovely human being. They were playing that record at one of the biggest political events in the last 4 years. Think about the magnitude of this record if it could be played in a venue like that. And think about how the higher-ups feel about Drake if they're okay with a record like that playing at such a large event. It's not like that record was like back-to-back, where Drake was hitting Meek Mill with these soft shots like, is that a world tour or your girls tour? No, this record was accusing Drake of some of the most horrible things that you can do as a human being. And they're letting this play on the biggest stages in the world. And speaking of the biggest stages in the world, we also got to talk about the recent VMA Awards. You know what song was blasting through the speakers during an intermission at that event? Well, we didn't get footage of Not Like Us, but I'm sure they played it. But they were bumping BBL Drizzy, and not the version with Drake rapping over the beat. No, they had the original version that Metro Boomin produced, where some guy is just harmonizing about Drake's booty shots. And then we get to the biggest blow to Drake that the industry has hit him with yet, and that would be Kendrick Lamar performing at the 2025 Super Bowl halftime show. Now, why is this such a blow? Well, with Not Like Us being the #1 song in the country, literally after 4 months of its release, it's still #1 on Apple Music. There's no doubt that Kendrick Lamar will find a way to perform that song at the Super Bowl. Even if he has to take out the PDF file lines, he will find a way to celebrate the success of that record and everything that it stands for on a stage that is being watched by over 100 million people. 100 million people are about to hear Kendrick Lamar talk about Drake being a PDF file. That can't happen with just Kendrick Lamar on his own. There's obviously something bigger at play. Now, we also got to talk about something Akademiks said. We're going to get to a lot of what he said recently because, as Kendrick just pointed out in his new song, Watch the Party Die, Akademiks has been spreading propaganda to defend Drake for months now. Now, I've been a fan of Akademiks since 2015 when he used to do YouTube videos just like this, but there's been an extreme bias in the way he reports on Drake versus Kendrick, and it's mind-blowing, simply put. But he also just got a reality check that might have made him realize that he's just a pawn to Drake within this game of clout. But we'll touch on that shortly. But as you guys probably know, recently Akademiks was reacting to Kendrick's new song, saying Kendrick Lamar only dropped it so people would shift the conversation away from criticizing Jay-Z for picking him over Lil Wayne for the Super Bowl performance, and instead they would now be talking about Drake versus Kendrick once again. Akademiks was listening to the record, and when Kendrick said that they don't hate me, they hate the man that I represent, Akademiks said what people hate is that Kendrick represents hatred, jealousy, lies, and hypocrisy. Now, this couldn't be further from the truth. And in terms of the lies, if you want to say the PDF file stuff or the daughter allegations that Kendrick made are lies, then we got to look at Drake's side as well, because you'll realize he's at the root of these problems for many reasons, which we're about to get to. See, firstly, according to Joe Budden, the two allegedly had a conversation before the beef even started when Kendrick Lamar tried to tell him to keep it friendly. This was after Kendrick dropped Like That, and it was basically a conversation where they kind of laid their cards out on the table in terms of where they both were at and how far they wanted to take it. Kendrick warned Drake again to keep it friendly on Euphoria after Drake said on his Push-Ups record, "I'd be with some bodyguards like Whitney," referencing Kendrick's fiance. On Like That, Kendrick came out strictly talking about the state of hip-hop and his place in it relative to Drake and J. Cole. He was just saying he's better and his legacy and message will outlive Drake's. There was nothing personal in that record. He wanted to keep this strictly a battle between what he stands for versus what Drake brings to the culture and the negative way he influences it. By destroying Drake in this battle, he builds his own platform bigger to spread his own message to a larger audience. Simultaneously, Drake takes a hit commercially, people see through his gimmick, less people tune into his next moves, and as a result, he has less influence in the culture. That was the battle that Kendrick wanted to fight. Drake made it about, oh, I have this big red button where I'm going to call out the fact that you're a woman abuser, you're not married, your son is really Dave Free's kid. And it was after Drake got all of these family issues involved that Kendrick Lamar took a step back and dropped Meet the Grams, which featured the allegations of the daughter and everything else that Akademiks is referring to when he says that people hate Kendrick for being a liar. Those 30 minutes in between Family Matters dropping versus Meet the Grams dropping, that was likely Kendrick listening to Family Matters and asking himself how far he wants to take this battle based on how far Drake just took it 30 minutes prior on Family Matters. He was letting Drake decide how dirty he wanted to make this game. The outcome of this beef followed into every move that Drake would make. He quickly decided to bring it into Family, and once Drake took it there, like Kendrick Lamar rapped on Euphoria, you take it there, I'm taking it further, and that's something you don't want to do. So if Kendrick is a liar, then what is Drake? Drake was lying on Kendrick's marriage. There's an interview with Whitney's cousin recently where he confirms that none of these allegations are true, and she's also in the Not Like Us music video dancing with Kendrick and their kids together. She's wearing a wife beater in the video. If she was really abused by Kendrick physically, would she be wearing a wife beater? Would she even be making an appearance in the Not Like Us music video at all? You gotta ask yourself these questions if you're really that delusional to think that Drake wasn't lying throughout that Family Matters record. Kendrick's also designing his Super Bowl set with Dave Free. I don't think Dave Free had a kid with Kendrick's fiance behind his back, and they're still collaborating on things like the Super Bowl or the Not Like Us music video. So you can see here, Drake threw out as many allegations as Kendrick. He was the one that took this beef from strictly hip-hop to being about family issues and TMZ gossip-style headlines. And Akademiks says Kendrick is jealous. You want to talk about jealousy? What about the bar when Drake rapped, "Kendrick just opened his mouth, someone go hand him a Grammy right now"? Or always rapping like you're trying to get the slaves free, don't even go back to your hood and plant no money trees. Drake is obviously jealous of the man that Kendrick is. But more importantly, he's jealous of the fact that the public views Kendrick as the savior of hip-hop, while they view Drake as someone who has done more harm for the genre than good. He also lied all throughout the Heart Part 6. He misinterpreted lyrics. He was saying he planted that information about having a fake daughter and Kendrick took the bait. That was proven to be false later on. So if Kendrick's a liar in this whole thing, then Drake is just as big as one, if not bigger. Now, with the Heart Part 6, that ended round 1, right? Kendrick was declared the winner with Not Like Us going number 1. And what comes next? Well, Kendrick remains silent, only popping out, no pun intended, at his pop-out concert and the Not Like Us music video. Meanwhile, Drake proceeds to drop track after track in a desperate attempt at trying to make a comeback. First, he remixes BBL Drizzy to Troll with Sexy Red. It flops, doesn't even hit the top 50. This is the first time in a long time for a Drake song to not hit the top 50 of the Billboard charts. But surely it's just a feature, and he'll come back on his own and blow Kendrick's numbers out of the water with his new records, right? Well, first comes a parody record, Wagwan Delilah. We've never heard him in that type of state before. shows he's either extremely confused or he was trying to troll his way out of the situation. But ultimately, it just lowered the value of his brand. Like, he's not Weird Al Yankovic or The Lonely Island. Drop a comment if you know who those people are. But then Drake proceeds to link up with some pop stars to try and capture that worldwide success that he had with songs like Controlla, One Dance, Passion Fruit. Surely it would be on that same level, right? He's done it time and time again. No, it was quite the opposite. We got the Camila Cabello and Gordo records. Both of them performed horribly. It's kind of expected that they would in the States since they're more house music and that typically does better overseas. But those records didn't even do well overseas. They were both flops, and keep in mind the whole time, before he officially releases these records, he plays these songs as snippets to try and gauge the reaction of the general public to see if they're good enough to release on his own. It shows that this loss to Kendrick has put Drake in an extremely confused state where he doesn't resonate with the mainstream as well as he did just a couple months ago. He keeps trying to test the waters and see what's going to stick. Nothing ends up sticking. But then finally we get to his own solo music where he actually started rapping again, and this is where round 2 starts. His record It's Up drops, he's taking shots at Rocky again, Blue Green Red drops, he addresses Kendrick's verse on Meet the Grams. I have breakdowns of all these different records, how he's taking subliminals at Kendrick. All these things have been broken down, so show me some love. Check out the channel, check out the other videos, and see what's up with those records. But let's talk about where Drake is at right now, because after those records, Drake clearly showed the world that he was not done with this beef. Then he drops a second batch of music, and this is where it really gets interesting because the same day it drops, he posts on his fake Instagram account saying, "We will win game 2." Now, when all you're doing is continuously dropping record after record, trying to make a comeback, each record is riddled with sneak disses and references to the beef that you were just a part of, what else could "We will win game 2" possibly mean besides "I will continue fighting until the public does not think that I lost to you"? Trump just tweeted something interesting about his debate with Kamala, which kind of resonates with this situation as well. He wrote on, actually it wasn't Twitter, it was his Truth social media platform. He wrote, "When a prize fighter loses a fight, the first words out of their mouth is, 'I want a rematch.'" And that's exactly what Drake was doing here. Whatever he was implying with game 2, he was basically saying he's going to win the rematch. We're months out from this whole back and forth, and there's been no real closure for Drake, right? Not Like Us was Kendrick stomping on his grave. He tried to make a comeback with The Heart Part 6. It failed. People viewed it as a desperate attempt to try to play the defense. So he's got no closure here. What else could he do besides try his best to win a round 2? Now, in my opinion, what round 2 means is he will become the more dominant, successful artist making better music than Kendrick in the future after this beef. Now, what's interesting is before we touch on all the hypocrisy with this round 2 stuff that Drake started, we have to look at the fact that since May, Drake has dropped almost 20 songs since the beef ended. Around 12 of them, he was the lead vocalist on the record, and that's damn near an album worth of stuff. Granted, he dropped the first few songs on Instagram and then only dropped them on streaming a week later, but I know him and his label are scrambling right now and realizing and scared of the fact that these songs are charting horribly for Drake's standard. It's Up was the highest charting song. It hit number 28 and it's just consistently dropping down the charts each and every day. It's crazy to think that 12 songs, none of them are in the top 20. To put into perspective, Nothing Was the Same is a 12-track album. Imagine he dropped records on the level of the 12 tracks off Nothing Was the Same and none of them charted. It shows you not only does he not have the same dominance commercially as he did years ago, but he's also not making the same quality music that he was years ago. But again, he dropped these songs on Instagram first, songs that hit streaming platforms right away. They were features. So maybe that's the reason why these songs are flopping, right? Well, then you got to look at Instagram itself, right? Kendrick just released his new song on Instagram and did more views in the first 24 hours than all the 5 Drake songs that he released on Instagram did in their first 24 hours combined. Then, because of the hype of Kendrick's new record, Not Like Us shot back up to number 1 on the Apple Music charts 4 months after its release. It shows you that people are truly looking for a change, and this beef has helped Kendrick reach higher levels of mainstream success than he's ever seen before. And currently, again, like I said before, I believe what Drake is implying with round 2 and what Kendrick would think round 2 is as well. Logically, it's not that they're going to go bar for bar again. It's that both of them are going to continue their careers. However, they both represent 2 very different things. So we'll see how the trajectory of hip-hop changes based off this beef and the outcomes of it. Will Drake remain the highest selling rapper, and will his influence continue to feed on to the next generation? Or will it be Kendrick Lamar's turn to start performing as the top selling rapper within the game, and will his message start resonating with the next generation much stronger than Drake's does? Well, as of right now, as you've seen by all the diss tracks they released and then all the Instagram tracks that they released, Kendrick is performing much better commercially, which is crazy considering the numbers Drake has done in the past. Like, even after he lost the beef to Pusha T, he was still destroying Pusha T and Kanye West numbers on a sales perspective. Now, let's get to round 2, right? What is round 2? Well, at first, Akademiks was saying that new Kendrick music is coming. He said this a couple weeks ago. He said an album is about to drop. DJ Head got on Twitter. He said Kendrick doesn't talk to anyone, especially not Akademiks. Akademiks went off. He said he's the single greatest journalist ever. He's got industry ties that are feeding him information from Kendrick's camp. That's how he knows about this new Kendrick album coming. He vowed to leak any new Kendrick info the second he got it. He claims his sources were so credible, and in revenge for DJ Head trying to attack his credibility, he was saying he was going to leak every new Kendrick music and be the first one to break all these new releases and new plans that Kendrick had before Kendrick was able to. But a few days later, Kendrick announces that he's performing at the Super Bowl and then drops a record. Akademiks obviously had no access to this info because he never exposed it. But what's interesting, around the same time that Akademiks is going off on DJ Head, he was hyping Drake up, saying that Drake is ready for round 2. Drake just dropped these 3 records, Circadian Rhythm, No Face, and SOD, and Akademiks is gassing them up. He's saying Drake is ready for round 2. He's loving all the sneak dissing.
Game 2, we will win. If you think Drake finna abandon and forsake all them fans, you gotta realize this for the fans right here. You think he gonna let some pussy ass niggas have something over him, his legacy, and his fans? No. Just watch game 2, bro. Just watch game 2.
And he continues going on. Even after Kendrick announces that he's going to be performing at the Super Bowl, Akademiks still tweets out saying, round 2, watch out for it. This is because he didn't realize in the trailer Kendrick dropped when he announced that he'd be performing at the Super Bowl, he said, there's only one chance to win a championship. No round 2. Right after that, Akademiks gets back on stream and says that round 2 is not happening, not from Drake's end. He is not going back and forth with Kendrick again, and we'd be stupid to think that he is. But just days before this, he was saying that round 2 was about to happen. Never mind days. Just as Kendrick announces the Super Bowl, Akademiks says be ready for round 2. So what could he be implying by Drake saying he's going to win round 2 if it's not a back-to-back with Kendrick? And why did Akademiks go from saying Drake is ready and going to win round 2 to then saying round 2 isn't happening? Well, the only thing I could think of are 2 things. Either round 2 means that they're both going to be dropping new music, either new albums. We know that Kendrick has one coming on the way. We know Drake might be dropping a new album with Party Next Door. And in the same fashion Kendrick released Meet the Grams 30 minutes after Family Matters, potentially Drake is waiting to drop his music around the same time Kendrick does in an attempt to overshadow any success that Kendrick would have garnered. Round 2 could also just mean, plain and simple, when they both drop new music, who will resonate more with the culture? Who will sell more? Whose projects will stand the test of time? Who will the overall culture appreciate more? That's truly, to me, what round 2 means. After it's all said and done, with the back and forth, with both of them putting their cases on display for why the other person is inferior, round 2 is simply these 2 titans dropping music, and the winner of that round will be whoever has the most longevity and impact when it's all said and done. Like Kendrick said on Like That, Prince outlived Mike Jack. Now, what round 2 or game 2 could also mean, because actually keep in mind, Drake didn't say round 2. He said we are going to win game 2. Kendrick Lamar then announces that he's performing at the Super Bowl. We know that the World Cup in 2026 is going to be in Toronto. We know that the World Cup generates a larger audience of viewers than the Super Bowl. Drake has already been involved with the team that's bringing the World Cup to Toronto in 2026. So is he possibly saying here that, yeah, while Kendrick will do the Super Bowl and perform in front of 100 million people, he'll be performing at the World Cup, which will garner a much bigger audience just 2 years from now? That's a little bit of conspiracy land. Let me know what you think. But also, speaking of conspiracies, Maul from the Rory and Maul podcast, who is known to be the superior OVHO to DJ Akademiks, Maul said that allegedly Drake has been chosen for the Super Bowl several times, but he turned it down every time. We know that Jay-Z has been on the board deciding who's going to perform for the last 4 years. Apparently, Drake has been offered it 4 times, rejected every single time. It's interesting to note, was this before or after Jay-Z got on the board and decided who would be the next Super Bowl performer? And what incentive would he have for turning down an event as big and impactful as that? Let me know what you guys think on that in the comments. I personally think that this is straight cap. This is just Maul doing his best to defend Drake's honor, to make it seem like Drake isn't fazed by Kendrick performing at the Super Bowl, to make it seem like Drake is the bigger artist and he's already been offered this opportunity. I think it's complete cap. Why would Drake turn down an opportunity to perform at the Super Bowl when he's literally rapping on first-person shooter, saying he's as big as the Super Bowl? It's the same reason why people ask, oh, why doesn't Drake do stadiums and he only does arenas? Because arenas fit less people. People think that Drake is a big enough artist where he can do these stadiums like Taylor Swift, The Weeknd, or Bad Bunny. But when it comes down to it, Drake just doesn't have that same global impact. I think it's the same thing with the Super Bowl. His impact, his messaging, everything about Drake doesn't align with the values that the NFL wants represented on a stage like that when they got the sponsors that they have. Now, it's also interesting to note that there was a lot of post and deleting going on, which raises a lot of eyebrows in terms of what Drake's current status and situation currently is. He posted that "we will win game 2" thing, then he deleted it. He posted a screenshot of his record label trying to get his songs taken off of Instagram so they could put it on streaming platforms. Then he deleted that post, and mysteriously some of the tracks went up on streaming platforms with a very cryptic, weird description that read, if you don't want to sort through Drake's 100 gigabyte data dump online, then you could listen to all his new records right here on Apple Music. It almost seemed like his record label was taking a shot at him. Then we get No Face with Playboi Carti, but once it hits streaming platforms, Playboi Carti's not on that record. You have to note also that Playboi Carti is signed to A$AP Rocky, and Playboi Carti also has ties to Kendrick Lamar. And that raises the bigger question at this point, who is left in Drake's corner? People are speculating he's also beefing with Lil Yachty, as Lil Yachty unfollowed him on Instagram and Drake took off his verse off the song SOD that they had together. People also thought that he was beefing with Lil Wayne when Lil Wayne did a song with YB and Cordae, and on it he rapped, "You're a teddy bear, a Teddy Graham." However, recently we'd come to find out that Wayne recorded that verse all the way back in 2021, and he's since been seen out with Drake multiple times. They did a whole tour together since then, so obviously those weren't shots at Drake. But he was also singing Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us record. He was rocking an XO chain gifted to him by The Weeknd, who has a very public feud with Drake, so people are kind of confused on their current situation. Obviously, again, Yachty and Playboi Carti potentially might not be in Drake's corner right now. Nicki Minaj was recently sticking up for Drake and Lil Wayne for not getting that Super Bowl show, but just weeks ago, she was calling him ugly boy on Instagram and sneak dissing him for collaborating with Lotto. So which artists are really left in Drake's corner that he can use the same way he has in the past to integrate their sound into his to elevate his own records? It's going to be very hard for him to find people in the future to collaborate with and who are still by his side to defend him if he keeps getting attacked by all these different rappers. Even fans in the Drake Reddit were trying to understand Drake's mental state and why he ever responded to Kendrick in the first place, saying it was a horrible move. Fans from Italy were literally saying that they know people who had never heard a Drake song before in their life, and they were even asking why there's a PDF file rapper in America right now. And check out this clip of someone on Akademiks stream trying to put into perspective to Ak that Drake doesn't care about him.
When he needs you, he'll send you DMs, he'll play old buddy with you, but he really don't fuck with you. That's why niggas are treating Drake like this, because he's a fuck nigga. You showing him mad love, he don't show you no love. Do you think Drake shows you love?
Drake showed me a lot of love.
How? What's he do to show you love?
I got exclusive info.
Act, that's not love.
I'm on the end of push-ups.
What do you do with that exclusive info? You say it to the world, you gas it up 10 times more. He's using you as a billboard, free promo. Showing you love is, yo, Act, I'm in the city. Here's 10 tickets to my show. Backstage, pull up. He sent Ice Spice a jet before he sent you one. Act, you're the biggest media platform, Act.
What that got to do with Drake? He's the biggest rapper.
And you're promoting him. Act, that nigga be dropping ass music. But you won't say that because you're a #1 fan. Even if this shit ass, you might get offline, might tell niggas you know, yo, that shit was ass. But nigga, you get online, you jump into it, doing backflips. That nigga can't give you no tickets to his show.
Now, if Drake loses Akademiks, he loses the media war, and then he really has no big players in the industry or who control the narrative by his side. But many people already think that Akademiks is biased, so I don't know if what he says is very valid when he's talking about Drake specifically. In terms of the general public, like when hip-hop fans hear Akademiks critique a new Drake song or a new Kendrick song, do they go into it thinking that he's coming with that Drake bias? It's hard to say. But between people like Akademiks potentially finally waking up, between Drake potentially beefing with his former friends like Lil Wayne, Lil Yachty, beefing with his record label, being unconfident in the rollout of his new music flopping, him being confused on his own next move, one day saying he's going to win game 2, then the next day saying there's no game 2, him being scared and confused of Kendrick's next move. It's left Drake in this position we've never seen him for in his entire career. And if I had to describe it in one word, I would just say confusion. I think he's confused on who's with him and who's against him. I think he's confused on how he should be releasing music going forward. I think he's confused on the direction of the sound of the music that he should be taking going forward. I think he's confused on whether or not he should be engaging in a round 2 with Kendrick. And I just think he's confused on how this is going to play out in the long term on his legacy. And that's for you guys to decide in the comments. Me personally, I've said this a million times. I think what Drake needs is another Nothing Was the Same. 12 tracks, 40 production, Boy Wonder production, bring it back to the basics, do your singing, do your rapping, but most importantly, get a little introspective, get a little self-reflective, peel back those layers a little bit. Like, look at Kendrick. He had people dancing to Not Like Us, a banger that defined the summer, but now we're in the fall and he's getting more introspective, he's coming back with a calmer perspective, and he's reflecting on everything that transpired. I'd like to see the same from Drake. I'd like to see some vulnerability, some maturity, some self-reflection, some desire for growth. I don't need another No Face where he's doing his best Playboi Carti impersonation. I don't need a, housekeeping nose with Lotto where he's trying to make In My Feelings Part 2, or all these pop records with Camila Cabello, or these troll records with Sexy Red and the Wagwan Delilah stuff. Like, every record that Drake has dropped has been the exact opposite of at least what I've been looking for from him if he wants to make the best comeback he could possible. I think, again, he needs to show us that human side of him. Him saying that his therapist is quitting on him because he keeps talking about beef and women and money only proves Kendrick's point better than it actually helps Drake. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you want to see next. Let me know what is next for Drake and for Kendrick and for yourself. Drop a little comment on what your goals are for the next year. My goal is to have 150,000 of you lovely people as subscribers by the end of the year. So if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, drop a little comment, drop a little like, and I will catch you guys in the next one.